From the moment he came into existence in Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, Roxas had one simple purpose assigned to him: to destroy Heartless and collect hearts for Kingdom Hearts.
That's 2 things.
But exactly how many hearts did this man gather in total? Today we look to answer that burning question, but first, I gotta give credit where it's due. This video was inspired by Regular Pat's How Many Heartless Has Sora Killed video. I believe I am well within my bounds by making this video, as the man himself said this.
Plus, this video is about Sora. You can also do the video where you figure out how many Heartless Roxas has killed if you like.
Challenge accepted.
For those of you who for some reason found this video and are watching it before his, this is the basic set of rules I'm going to be using, albeit a little bit altered. I will be doing a fresh playthrough of 358 over 2 days, and in doing so simultaneously keeping track of the minimum number of Heartless Roxas has to defeat before he can go home and crash for the day. This includes both Emblem and Pureblood Heartless, as no matter what, some fights against Purebloods are mandatory, and I suppose in doing this little experiment we can also form an idea as to exactly how many hearts Roxas and Xion contributed to the formation of Xemnas' fake Kingdom Hearts. So maybe this video won't be so pointless after all. Oh, and just so everyone's on the same page, I am aware that chaining together Heartless kills really quick does net you a greater total of hearts, and that at the end of each mission your hearts do get multiplied. To that I'll say this: I'm not a speedrunner of this game yet, so for the sake of this video, let's just assume Roxas is your average Joe like me, which means that he will do his best, and for the sake of my sanity, I will only count by whatever total is in the heart counter at the end of each mission without the multiplier. When it comes to Heartless kills, I am only counting the Heartless that Roxas fights and defeats himself. If a party member kills one, I won't count it unless Roxas did some damage prior, and self-destructing enemies do not count no matter what. Lastly, I know that no matter who finishes a Heartless, or if a Heartless ends itself, the heart point counter will still go up. So we will count all heart points collected, but we will not count the exceptions I just made towards the final Heartless kill count. Now with those rules in place,
let us all welcome one of the Keyblade's chosen.
In our first mission, Axel gives us a rundown of how most missions work, but no Heartless spawn whatsoever and therefore are not needed to complete the mission. On day 9, we trained with Marluxia, who teaches us about the different Heartless types. We start with a wave of 3 Pureblood Heartless called Shadows, we then fight 3 Yellow Operas in the next wave, and then a third and final wave of 6 more Yellow Operas. Following up on this on day 10, we train with Zexion, who teaches us about the mission gauge. This is our guideline to the minimum number of Heartless needed to complete each mission, which we will be trying our hardest to keep to. Thankfully, you only need to fight Emblem Heartless to fill the gauge, but that doesn't mean that some of our future endeavors won't have us fighting some Pureblood types anyways. For this mission in particular though, we are given a clear-cut goal of killing 7 Heartless, which consists of 2 Dire Plants and 5 Yellow Operas. And if you're curious, we can kill up to 6 more Heartless to bring the total up to 13 to completely fill the mission gauge, which is just so funny. Nomura really loves those 2 little numbers, doesn't he? Today we learn magic with Larxene. We practice our magical capabilities and slay 3 Dire Plants and 3 Yellow Operas. One has to be by magic, but the others are fair game. On mission 5 with Vexen, we're learning how to do recon missions. No need to slay any Heartless at all. You can encounter some Possessors and Shadows, but because they're Pureblood and not part of the mission, all you really need to do is avoid them and inspect the most random spots in this godforsaken town until the Krakial scientist says it's time to leave. Lexius shows us what a good backhand to the face can do for your character. The Limit Break is by far one of the most useful abilities for this game, and it helps us take down the single target that appears, which is just one giant shadow, and we get 0 hearts from it. On the following day, we get to hang out with Axel again for our first real mission. After exiting the alleyway, we go up towards Station Plaza and are forced into a battle against 5 Possessors and 4 Yellow Operas. Even if you defeat the 4 Operas first, you still unfortunately need to erase the Possessors as well. After doing so, you can continue on to the Station Plaza, where you will fight 3 more Yellow Operas and 2 Scarlet Tangos. The Tangos can be a bit annoying, but by finishing them off, we have earned just enough to RTC and complete today's Heartless quota. Day 15 is the first day of many where Sykes will give you optional missions, and even though I should have mentioned this at the start, I intend to do every mission, even the secret ones you get from different members of the organization during the course of the game. For experienced players who have gone for 100% completion, you probably already know that to unlock some of these missions, you need to complete certain quotas and others, which means even more Heartless need to be killed, and that means even more to keep track of. I think it would be kind of pointless to try and keep track of every single one of those, so from here on out, I'll just be doing this as if it were all missions unlocked from the start. That being said, we start up mission 8 and begin our hunt for Watcher Heartless alongside Larxene. of which we find and destroy 7. I always kind of liked this mission because after this, we really don't get to see Larxene ever again in the game. Because of, well, you know, stuff that happens in Chain of Memories.
I'm fainting? No, this isn't the way. I won't allow.
Similar situation with mission number 9, where we're collecting Heartless in Twilight Town with Marluxia. I thoroughly enjoy this mission solely because it's the easiest heart collecting mission of all time. Simply go to the old mansion right outside the gate and take out the 5 dire plants with some fire magic and a few clean hits, and you can RTC with no problem. So the organization likes to run little tests on Roxas from time to time just to show their quirky side, with missions such as this, where you need to survive in the training hall for a full minute, and because we only need to survive, we can walk out of this mission without fighting anything, although there aren't any Heartless to begin with, so fight or don't fight, completely up to you. Skipping ahead a few to day number 22, our target becomes the Guardian boss type Heartless, which is more or less just a giant watcher, but who's keeping track, right? Anyways, this one was kind of tricky to keep our mostly pacifist Roxas happy because no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't get this door open without fighting off the watcher and the 2 minute bombs that were stationed next to it. Because the minute bombs self-destructed, I could write this off as a loophole, but because we had to fight them to get through the door anyways, we're gonna count them. Thankfully, once we get to the Guardian, all we need to do to clear the mission is beat it. You don't even have to fight the 4 watchers that spawn alongside it, believe me, I checked. Today's our first outing with Xion. Today's mission is pretty simple. We just gotta go take out the poison plant while avoiding all of the dire plants and minute bombs. And yes, even though it might seem impossible, I was able to RTC without fighting the 3 dire plants that surrounded the portal upon our return, so I'm only adding 1 Heartless to the kill count from day 23. The Deserter Heartless themselves are already a massive pain to fight against, but counting how many of their quick little feet I lopped off was even trickier than you might expect. However, thanks to Xion's help, we were able to deal with all 15 of them quickly and efficiently. Day 25, we have to eliminate a dark side. This is where we find out Xion can also use the Keyblade, and if we knew how many Heartless she had slain on her missions without us, I would count it towards the heart total. But since we don't, we walk away from this mission with only 1 dark side added to our grand total, and no heart points. And it's also Xion's first time trying ice cream. As we go through the story, you will probably notice there's been a pattern of investigation missions usually being among the first things we do each time there's a new world to explore. And today's mission just so happens to be our first time in Agrabah. As with all of these investigation missions though, there's usually a few Heartless that spawn near or right on top of points of interest during these missions, so we had to put an end to 3 Scarlet Tangos and 4 Loudmouths to complete the mission objective. But at least we get to hear all of Xigbar's terrific dad jokes. Day 27, Roxas is unconscious. But 24 days later, Roxas finally came out of his coma and we're already being put to work again. And wouldn't you know it, but we're already back in Agrabah hunting down some fire plants, so we're packing ice. I slayed 4 fire plants in total before moving on to the final area with the Barrier Master and 3 other fire plants. In past playthroughs, I always killed the Barrier Master first so I wouldn't have any issues with the fire plants, but since we're trying to keep to the bare minimum, I tried to do without killing him, and surprisingly, it worked. By hitting him far away from his book and killing the fire plants while he slowly hobbled back to it, I finished this mission with only 7 fire plants slain and 105 heart points claimed. Mission number 17 is the Tail Bunker fight. On mission mode, this guy gave me so much trouble and it was payback time. I skipped past the minute bombs and said toodaloo to the poison plant, smacked the hell out of the Tail Bunker, and then RTC'd the hell out of there. Usually I really dislike emblem missions because as much as I hate to admit it, the movement in 350 over 2 days could be better, like a lot better. But because of the nature of today's challenge, I can get off scot-free with killing 0 Heartless on this mission. It's yet another deserter mission. These guys are seriously such a pain to keep track of in terms of numbers needed to win, but after slowing down the footage a few times, I counted that 8 spawn in the first and second waves. After a small struggle and fearing for my life, I defeated all 16 to complete the mission and gathered a total of 270 hearts. On mission 20, we're just destroying some shadow globs in Twilight Town. Obviously they're not emblem Heartless, and I can't exactly classify them as purebloods either, so this is basically the same case as with the emblem Emblem missions. There are some Guardians and other Heartless running around, but you can easily avoid them, so I won't be counting anything towards the total and we will move on. I have been dreading this since I started recording for this video. It's Axel's first day back and we're stuck walking behind this big palooka right here. We're meant to be collecting hearts, but instead it's the first of many tailing missions. Once we tail him all the way back to the Cave of Wonders, however, we finally get back on track. 7 Scarlet Tangos, 4 Dire Plants, 6 Loudmouths, and a large armor later, and we are finally on our way back to celebrate with some ice cream and our good buddy Axel. On day 73, we finally get our first time at Beast's Castle, this time to eliminate the Sergeant, basically a bigger soldier Heartless. I got through the puzzles in the courtyard easy enough without fighting any Heartless, but when we enter through the secret tunnel, it's a different story. I had to topple the 2 Shadows and Soldier in the first block so I could activate the switch, then ran through the corridor as quickly as I could to the very next sealed door. If you do it quickly enough, you can avoid the next 2 Shadow and Soldier Heartless respectively, but in order to trigger the final switch, I had to destroy 3 more Heartless, and from there we jumped through the hole in the balcony to the main hall to finally get rid of our target once and for all, leaving our total at 7 total Heartless destroyed and 88 hearts collected. The first biannual search for Xion begins on day 74 with a trip to Twilight Town by order of Sayax. Honestly, it's a really interesting and memorable mission to me with a lot of deep emotional moments, but since this challenge doesn't really have anything to do with all of that crap, it's kind of a slog to beat. To get to the point, a lot of it is just you and Axel running around investigating shit while Pence basically gaslights us into doing more investigating. So to save you guys some time, the answers to his dumb questions are C, B, and then C again. You're welcome. So now with all that out of the way, we run into the forest, smack this tree, trigger a boss fight, Xion gets bodied, and then we finish her mission for her and are awarded with 23 hearts, and only 1 Heartless slain as a result. Overall, a pretty successful day. On day 75, we get another series of missions, with our first one taking us to Agrabah to figure out what the deal with that cave was. This time, we are joined by our other best friend, Xion, and before entering the Cave of Wonders from our last mission here, we must first enter a mandatory fight to save Abu from some Scarlet Tangos. I counted 8 in total, and as a reward, the monkey gave us a secret mystery Mouska tool that we can use for later. We then enter the cave, skipping past many a Heartless, do some extreme parkour, and the only Heartless we ever really need to fight from here on in are the 2 Fire Plants and 3 other Scarlet Tangos in order to trigger the cube switches throughout the cave. We cap off this excursion with some ice cream and 1 big palooka firmly dealt with. On day 76, it's back to Agrabah again to squish some pimples of darkness. 0 Heartless casualties there. Same deal with day 76, except now we have organization emblems in Twilight Town. No Heartless were harmed during the mission. For the next one in this batch, we make our way to Beast's Castle to explore and investigate. We can easily avoid and evade all the Heartless in the outside courtyard, and you know what? We might have been able to avoid all of the ones in the main hall as well, but we went ahead and fought the 2 Shadows, Bad Dog, and Sergeant to the left side in order to observe this one checkpoint. Following that, we made our way towards the West Wing, where we sneak past Lumiere and go up the stairs to a mandatory fight against 2 Bad Dogs and 1 Snapper Dog. And we managed to get a better understanding of the beast before making our way out of this mission with only 89 hearts added to our total. Once again returning to Beast's Castle for mission 28, we are teamed up again with Xion for a heart collection outing, which would have been a piece of cake if only Xion wasn't so bloodthirsty for every single Heartless in sight. Not having a Keyblade must really be getting to her. When we got to the courtyard, we ran into 2 Sergeants and 2 Shadows. I accidentally killed one of the Shadows with a fire as I was trying to attack one of the Sergeants, and Xion probably thought it was okay since she saw me do it, and did the same thing to the other with the Blast of Thunder. In all fairness, I guess if this is monkey see, monkey do, then I am not being the best role model here. On our way back up to the spawn point, we cleared out all 4 bully dogs, and Xion once again killed another Shadow before we even made our way to the main hall to play a little game of hide and seek with Cogsworth, while simultaneously fighting 2 soldiers who were lurking on either side. Up in the East Wing, we encounter our final targets of the mission, a Papa Snapper Dog and his 2 orphan Bad Dog sons. I tried to go for one or the other since we only needed a little bit more to complete the mission, and as you can see here, I couldn't really decide fast enough, and Xion once again so brutally murdered the father in cold blood despite the mission already being finished by pushing the bar all the way up to 100% completion, leaving us with a grand total of 14 Heartless slain, and 188 hearts obtained. Day 94 is fairly simple, as the only mandatory fights are the 2 Snapper Dogs and the Neo Shadow the mission is for, but somehow I still managed to fudge it by forgetting that the chest in the center of the room with the dogs contained a symbol monkey. Not to worry though, as long as we subtract the 11 heart points we gained from it, our total goes from 57 to a 46. This is another one of those missions where I'm sure if you had enough knowledge and prep you could get away with making fewer Heartless heads roll, but because I sometimes forget where some of them are located, we end up taking down 3 fire plants and 4 loudmouths in the midsection of Agrabah upon our entry. Climbing up to the higher points gets us 3 more fire plants and 1 more loudmouth. I then backtracked to the main entrance to get to the other 2 high points in the midsection, which netted us another loudmouth and fire plant, but we still weren't quite done with the mission, so I returned to the area just before the palace to confront the large armor and barrier master. I was hoping that by dealing with the barrier master we would have reached our Heartless quota, but in the end we still needed to beat both to get the bare minimum of 15 Heartless and 221 heart points. Day 96 is incredibly memorable for many reasons. Xion gets her Keyblade back, and Roxas learns the power scaling of a stick in the Kingdom Hearts universe. But by far the easiest count for me to do was the slaying of 1 bully dog in the ballroom, resulting in just 1 Heartless slain, 1 Cogsworth avoided, and 44 heart points collected. Day 97 brings with it the first world boss. I put this in parentheses because while each battle or hunting type mission will usually have a challenging encounter or 2, each world is only ever properly assigned 1 unique boss fight. Usually it's a Heartless that is causing some kind of chaos or disarray and might be the cause of some strange things happening within the world. In this case, that boss is the Antlion, which not so gracefully gave us 93 hearts and only 1 addition to our total Heartless kill count, so it's a win. This is just another one of the organization's training exercises. Again, no Heartless are harmed in these drills, but a few pots may have been broken. And I mean, hey, another slot releaser, why not? This mission nearly gave me a panic attack. The targets were Aerial Masters, 4 of them to be precise, and of course I'm partnered up with Demix, who uncharacteristically was over diligent with his work on this mission. I swear I was internally screaming at him not to kill any of the loudmouths surrounding the first Aerial Master as seen here, but at the same time I kind of want him to, if only to stop them from healing the target. Oh, and the other 3? Yeah, not so hard. They all were pretty spaced apart in the place we fought them in the Antlion arena earlier, and with those out of the way and the 0 extras killed, we made it out of there scot-free with only the 4 Aerial Masters slain and 208 hearts. 100 days in at last! And it's gotta be a record breaker too. We started the mission by immediately going to the hidden room to the right in Beast's Castle and are met with several dozen icy cubes. I counted 20 in total thanks to having shot off 20 fire casts and each one of them landing from my safe perch upon this dresser in the back left corner, then proceeded to the secret passage where I decimated 2 of their Pokemon evolutions, the Snowy Crystals. I then darted to the West Wing Hall to fight 2 more and cap off my mission gauge until the second one there accidentally pushed me back into the previously mentioned area right before I beat it. I ended up struggling to fight the last one in the secret passage since at this point I was out of fire casts while also avoiding some possessors, which was not easy. But I managed somehow, and it left us with only 4 Snowy Crystals and 20 ice cubes put on ice. Huzzah, it's our first mission to Olympus Coliseum. Our mission starts and ends with the only 5 Heartless being 3 Little Cannons and 2 Flare Notes. They go down without much of a problem, and the rest of the mission is just reconnaissance mixed with some training from Phil. Pretty satisfying and straightforward. Day 118. A day off, the only day off that these hard-working individuals ever get. Although it's an important and memorable day, 0 Heartless were ever killed during this mission. Today, we're partnered up with Zolden. I'm very mixed on this mission because on one hand it has some amazing meme potential, on the other, there's stealth involved. On the first, it sets up what happens with Sora visiting to Beast Castle in Kingdom Hearts 2 beautifully, and on the bad hand yet again, it's swarming with Heartless encounters. Try as I might to avoid some of them, I still wound up encountering quite a lot. Near Belle's room, in order to peek in and get the recon checkpoint, we had to fend off 2 sergeants, which was easy, although I nearly stepped into Cogsworth line of sight several times. Same instance in the courtyard, there were 2 checks that needed to be made, and again I had to face off against 2 sergeants to get them, although I did manage to cheese my way past the Neo Shadows. In the ballroom, there's a checkpoint dead center in the middle, and unfortunately, 3 snapper dogs spawn as soon as you get close enough to check it, so you have to slay them all. And finally, when you go to investigate the beast room, there's a giant shadow and a bully dog. Although it was by pure luck, the giant shadow did despawn as soon as I got close to the beast room, but I still had to add the bully dog to my list of kills on this adventure, leaving us with a total of 8 Heartless slain, and just shy of 200 hearts collected. We're finally back at Olympus Coliseum and are immediately thrust into a mandatory encounter with 2 flare notes and a jumbo cannon. We are then thrust into yet another mandatory battle against a clay armor by Phil because there's literally nobody else around who can handle it. Something interesting I noticed is that the heart counter actually momentarily disappears for this fight, but we still gain heart points after defeating it, and it's added to the total later, but still, it's pretty interesting. After that warm-up, Phil puts us through some mandatory training of hitting barrels into Heartless, and this added another 9 soldiers to the overall total and leaves us with a grand total of 269 hearts reaped. Another deserters mission? I'd say it's kinda whatever, but it was actually more difficult than the rest for the purposes of this challenge. The thing that makes this different from the others is that there's actually several soldier Heartless mixed in with the deserters, and by now you know that deserters and soldiers are basically just palette swaps, which led me to killing a few by accident and making our heart total count even higher than it probably needed to be. I counted 15 deserters and 3 soldiers, which capped off our total heart count at 270 for the day. Mission 41 can be a little challenging if you forgot to pack some arrow magic. Thankfully though, I did, because I remember this particular mission being very frustrating without it, and miraculously, even though I was paired with trigger happy Xigbar over here, we managed to finish off the mission with only our target, the Morning Star, being added to the total, and the others that spawned in during the fight being avoided. Xigbar, you're officially on my nice list for this playthrough. Don't mess it up. On this, the 149th day of our existence, we set foot into Halloween Town for the very first time, and a certain mystery begins to unfold. If you want to know more about said mystery, then click on that video up in the top corner right here. But for now, let's stop fooling around and get to the kills. As soon as the mission starts, we run into 2 creepworms, which are easily the weakest Heartless in the game, followed by a skater bomb, which went down equally as easy with the help of a fire cast. Moving into the town square, I killed a shadow while fighting 2 more creepworms, followed by 2 more skater bombs. I seriously hate how these things spawn right next to each other. It's like they're trying to make me kill more of them. I fended off 5 more creepworms and 1 more skater bomb before moving on to the boneyard and smiting 5 search ghosts all at once with a quick fire blast to a nearby trick pumpkin. 10 out of 10 right there, which in turn completed the mission with a total of 246 hearts added to our grand total. Okay, this might be the only mission in the entire game without a single emblem Heartless in it, and honestly, I'm okay with that. Upon entering the ballroom in Beast's castle with Zoldan, we are forced into a mandatory battle against 2 possessors, 2 shadows, and 1 giant shadow. It's a shame that we can't skip this fight, but it doesn't add any hearts to our total, so I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Moving over to the West Wing Hall, we find our target, the Dark Follower, which is basically just a dark side with a slight palette swap. He spawns some shadows with his first kind of hand attack, but I managed to avoid killing them somehow, leaving us with only the mandatory kills of this mission done. Day 151 is something of a double mission where we have an unconventional team up with Xion. It's a Heartless hunting mission as well as an emblem mission. Unfortunately, in order to get the target, we need to go through the tunnel system underneath, and to open the gray doors in said tunnels, we gotta fight some Heartless. 1 poison plant and 1 Gigas shadow did we slay, before moving on and taking out the avalanche in the Sandlot area, leaving us with a total of 3 Heartless killed and 92 heart points acquired. This mission to Halloween Town is so unique in the way you find Heartless hiding amongst the balloons Jack made and other random objects in the boneyard and town square. It makes it easy to keep track of and control what Heartless we fight and how many. Starting in the boneyard, we fight off 3 hover ghosts hidden in balloon number 1, 3 creepworms behind Zero's house, another 2 in balloon number 2, another hover ghost in this absurdly positioned check on this tombstone, and finally 1 more right next to the coffin, before the bestest boy Zero leads us into the town square, where we will defeat just 1 more snowy crystal with a blast of fire magic, leaving me kind of wishing I too had a dog this smart. Mission 46 has us back at Olympus Coliseum for more training, which means we yet again get to bear witness to the mighty power of the almighty barrels of death. And let me tell you, it doesn't get much easier than this. 20 loudmouths in total felt the smiting feeling of our totally tubular barrels grace their stupid heads, and we got to go home and sleep the rest of the day knowing that we were once again lucky to wield such a mighty weapon. Let's go! First visit to Wonderland. After drinking the trippy mushroom juice from a jar, we get the chance to explore the bazaar room for the first time this playthrough. On the table spawns 2 sapphire elegies. Gone. On the stove, 2 striped arias. Also gone. On the corner table were 2 gray capris. They're gone too. Capiche? Our final target reveals itself after smacking the granny chair, and it's a lurk lizard. This time it's actually so much worse than that time we fought one to save Xion, because it can teleport around after turning invisible, and it's such a wide area to hide in, but after some struggle we managed to beat it and gained another 275 more hearts. Mission 48, another fairly simple mission of just hunting down and knocking this solid armor's lights out. He's in the Cave of Wonders main entrance, so just going straight there and ignoring all the other Heartless lets us walk out of this one with only 45 hearts obtained. Mission 49, however, is the total opposite. I don't know what it is about Beast Castle, but it is always littered with Heartless everywhere. Is this man sleeping on the job? So here we go. In the main hall, we have a run-in with 2 soldiers and 2 icy cubes. In the courtyard, there were 2 bad dogs and another icy cube. At the bridge, Xigbar and I blasted away at a pair of snapper dogs before going to the rafters and slaying 4 soldiers. And all of that still isn't enough to fill the mission gauge. So we mamboed our way over to the ballroom to fight 3 more of the little guys, I love them so much, who were also led by their cold queen Snowy Crystal. In the east wing, we took out its twin sisters. In the west, we faded 2 sergeants. In the hidden room, we put down a bully dog before making our way through the dungeon to fight another soldier and 2 more icy cubes, which finally put us at the exact number of hearts we needed at 472. This mission is a peculiar case in the sense that, yeah, all we need to do is kill the infernal engine, with which I actually struggled for in the first recording that you're seeing now, but then the power went out as soon as I had finished recording it, so I had to do it all over again. Only that time I cheesed it with a completely different keyblade, so yeah, easy to manage if you know how, and 96 heart points. We take those. Day 172, we're with Luxord again in Wonderland hunting down the pink concertos. The first 4 were hidden in flowers found in the main forest area, but each flower was also guarded heavily by 1 sergeant each. So we added 4 of those to the count as well, before moving to the Queen's courtroom and finding the last one in Alice's cage. This one is also guarded by 2 sergeants, but we can easily avoid killing them by focusing solely on the target. And this would have been the end if we didn't have to fend off 2 Grey Caprice and 2 more sergeants just so we can trigger the bottle of magic orange juice and return to the original size that we were given to RTC, leaving us with a grand total of 303 hearts collected. Isn't that just wonderful? It's gonna be a recurring trend, so be prepared for that. Mission 52 is more or less a lot of the same that we did on our last visit to Halloween Town, having Zero lead us from Heartless to Heartless in different areas of the map, but only after we beat the shit out of Lock, Shock, and Barrel. At the Swirly Hill, we found 4 Skater Bombs, 4 Hover Ghosts, and in the area adjacent to that, we managed to fill our mission gauge just enough to get a mission complete by knocking an explosive pumpkin into 2 snowy crystals simultaneously. Our first mission in Neverland was eventful. I was immediately dropped into a struggle with 2 turquoise March and an air battler, which helped to remind me that the water element of magic does in fact exist within this game. So why didn't we get any magical panels for it? Guess we'll never know. After that little excursion, we run into Tinkerbell, who appears to take a liking to Roxas rather quickly, and grants us the power of flight, which then allows us to investigate 1 chest in particular that is guarded by another air battler. I managed to knock it out without any issue, and moved on to our target, the Wave Crest, which almost completely trashed me by the way, but we ended up surviving in the end, and walked out of this 140 heart points richer. The target in question is a dual blade, which would have been easy if not for the 3 self-destructing skater bombs that went off. I mean really, between my bloodthirsty party members and the enemies that are so self-destructive that they make me feel better about myself, this heart count continues to grow way out of my control. Mission 55 is an emblem mission, so you'd think we're in and out just like that with 0 Heartless slain, but because of the inspection point on the magic mushroom peanut butter jar in the bazaar room being locked when enemies are nearby, we had to fight a striped aria and a sapphire algae just so we could leave. I suppose it still could have been worse. Day 193. Mission 56 marks one of my favorite moments in the entire game. For the first and last time in the story, we get to experience a 3-man mission with both Axel and Xion. So it's a shame that it's incredibly short-lived, since the only Heartless we get to fight with them in our party is the Heat Saber and Barrier Master. As pissed off as it makes me to admit it, I was so close to beating the Heat Saber without killing the Barrier Master like I did with that one mission, and I'm sure with enough tries I probably could, but I won't complain. We make our way to Station Plaza. Xion passes out, and we have to face off against the destroyer alone while Axel coddles her. 2 of the minute bombs that accompanied it were self-destructing mid-fight, but I'm thankful that I managed to break the target to pieces before the last one did. For mission 57, we simply need to enter the maze in Wonderland, avoid some cards, and fight the commander, another soldier palette swap, 3 different times in 3 different locations in the maze. There's not a whole lot to say about this mission, other than the usual tag-along by Luxord and his silly little gambling puns, as well as the aggravatingly terrible AI of the playing card soldiers and their really weird view hitbox. So let's just move on. The day following the last brings with it a similar story, 3 of the same Heartless in 3 different locations. This time, it's the Artful Flyer in Neverland. The thing about this mission is that much like the Zero missions in Halloween Town, we can for the most part pick and choose our fights by investigating very particular chests that Hook and Smee have uncovered. If by some chance you know the 3 chests that they are hidden in like I do, you can get away with fighting only the 3 Artful Flyers themselves and 1 additional air battler that unfortunately gets triggered no matter how you approach this one particular burial spot. Day 196 is unique, to say the least. This is the only mission of its kind where Roxas is sent out to harvest synthesis materials. 3 shining shards, minimum to be exact. These are harvested from Guardian-type Heartless, and all 3 of them can be found in the Tram Common area of Twilight Town. And after beating them, we get out of there with only 66 heart points and 3 shiny rocks. Mission number 60. Our mission? Defeat an avalanche in Wonderland. We're in, we blast them with some fire, we're out. Easy as that. We're entering the games, where every battle besides the one at the entrance is mandatory. Starting off in round 1, we fight off 3 soldiers and 3 shadows. Super easy. Round 2, on the other hand, couldn't be more aggravating. If you play this game enough, you already know how annoying hover ghosts can be, and we have to beat 8 of them. After some time, I did manage to overcome that obstacle and move on to something easier in round 3, with an ice cannon and 3 striped arias, and in round 4 with 4 yellow operas and a tail bunker, thanks to the awesome power of the mighty barrels of Olympus. In the finals, we have a surprise mock battle against Xigbar before finally fighting our real target, the guard armor, which honestly doesn't get enough credit for being difficult as it is in this game. Its attack patterns are similar to how they are in Kingdom Hearts 1, but I absolutely hate how it can regenerate its limbs, and that when it's in full body mode, the only place it can take damage is on the top of its head, which is ridiculously out of reach. But 5 painful minutes later, we walked away a pseudo-champion, and 507 hearts were added to our little heart basket. Day 225 brings with it the mission where things really start to take an interesting twist in Halloween Town's plot, which again you can find out about in another video of mine. But that aside, this mission is probably one of my worst nightmares. In the Boneyard 1 area, we get sealed off and are forced to fight 20 hover ghosts before continuing to the next area to our real fight, the target carrier ghost. And I'll be frank, this boss sucks. Even if you know the method to cheese it, not shown here because I'm an idiot and equipped the wrong keyblade, it takes an unnecessarily long time to defeat it, and it's much harder if you factor in that it randomly teleports. Like, come on, is 8 HP bars really necessary for what isn't even the final boss of the world? Anyway, enough ranting, let's move along before I get an aneurysm. If you talk to Axel before doing mission 62, he will give you an assignment to complete, and upon completing it, we get an extra mission to Wonderland with Xion to fight some Shadow Globs. Thankfully, we got out of there without killing any Heartless in the process, but believe me, there were some close calls. Mission 64 is similarly obtained from Demix, who gives you this mission because he's too lazy to go get every chest from mission 51 in Wonderland, and for anyone curious, you can get this last chest by going to this entrance right here in the far left corner. But was it worth it? Honestly, not really. Mission 64 is the worst kind of mission. The Emerald Serenade belongs on the Mount Rushmore of bullshit mobs in the series, right alongside the Hot Rods from Kingdom Hearts 2. The strategy for fighting them is basically just to sit in the same spot for an extended period of time, for it to like walk in front of you so you can hit it with some fire or freeze magic, which believe me, takes a long time. Thankfully, none of the other Heartless on this mission got in our way, and we walked out with a measly 14 hearts. Today marks 255 days since Roxas joined the organization, and he decides to celebrate by doing another crappy stealth mission in Wonderland? This guy needs to find new ways to have fun. In this mission, we're searching the hedge maze again in Wonderland for 4 identical switches. The first 3 are simple as long as you can avoid the cards and their weird eye hitbox things again, but the final one required me to fight 1 Sapphire Elegy and 1 Great Caprice in order to trigger it. After hitting it and doing the doorknob room, we find our target, the Nova Shadow, which, if you're curious, goes down so easily with some fire magic. Just a little pro tip there. Of course, much like with every Wonderland mission so far, we can't leave without doing some unnecessary fights against some Heartless guarding the magic juice jars, and this time the lucky winners are 2 Striped Aria and 2 Great Caprice. You know, this world really isn't that bad until you're trying your hardest not to fight Heartless. Then it's hell. This next mission is quite tricky to judge. For the uninitiated, Mission 66 is the infamous battle against the Leechgrave. There's a severe lack of Heartless in the world, and the culprit happens to be this truly terrifying Heartless and its many tendrils. In fact, there's actually only one Heartless other than the boss during the whole mission, and it's completely optional. But the tricky part when judging this mission is whether or not to count all the tendrils as individual Heartless encounters, or just part of the greater whole that makes up the Leechgrave. Well, they don't release any hearts on their own, so I'm just gonna make the call here that we only killed 1 Heartless today, and it absolutely deserved it. Another Emerald Serenade mission, oh my god. This time in our favorite world, Wonderland. Yay! Of course, even though the Emerald Serenade is simple to beat given enough time, we don't get to leave without fighting some more Heartless, as you well know by now. A Blizzard Plant and Sapphire Elegy this time, but seriously, why isn't there a Heartless repellent like they have in Pokemon? That right there is a novel idea, Nomura. Please, write it down, take notes. We're back in Agrabah again, and we're hunting some Heartless. 4 Fire Plants and 1 Aerial Master were found in the cave, with several others hiding at higher points. But because those were out of reach, we moved on to the main city of Agrabah to find the rest. And lo and behold, upon entering the city, we found 3 Loudmouths in a solid armor right away. I'm choosing to completely ignore the 2 solid armors within the city in exchange for hunting down all 20 Loudmouths scattered around town, because even though it could possibly reduce the total number of Heartless that I need to kill, I just can't be bothered to see if it reduces or increases the heart count by any considerable amount, so let's just move on. Wonderland finally gave us an interesting mission. So what, maybe I do hate this boss. Maybe it's an inferior version of the Kingdom Hearts 1 Pain in the Ass classic, but at least I don't have to fight any extra Heartless just so I can walk out the damn front door. So yes, I can confidently say that after spending the past 6 minutes straight, I finished the mission and reluctantly decided to count this boss as 2 Heartless. Mission number 70 is another 358 classic, the Deserter mission type, this time at Beast's Castle in the main hall. Of course, with a fresh spin by adding a Barrier Master on top of the 16 previously mentioned Deserters. After vanquishing them all, we return to RTC only to be confronted by an Invincible, which we can still RTC since he's too big and stupid to act fast enough before we jump through our little portal of darkness. Mission 71 is just another organization training exercise, nothing here but nobodies unfortunately. In our first visit back to Halloween Town since the Leechgrave incident, we are confronted in the town square by twin dual blades. Funnily enough, I was super close to completing the mission solely by fighting the 9 creepworms that spawned during the fight, one right after another, but I just barely didn't have enough. In my desperation, I ran all around the area searching for even just one more Heartless spawn to complete the mission bar so we could just get out of there. And then anyway, I beat one of the dual blades and I left, okay? The games at Olympus Coliseum are back for a rerun since the last games were crashed by Xigbar in the guard armor, and this time they are much easier to handle. Round 1 was against a Sky Grappler and 2 Air Battlers, which almost killed me, no thanks to the barrels in this round. In round 2, 6 little cannons and 3 jumbo cannons are mounted up on the top wall out of reach, but thankfully the barrels were much more cooperative in this round versus the last, and we easily dispatched them before moving on to round 3, where we dispel a switch launcher and 2 snowy crystals. Round 4 features 4 Watchers and an Ice Cannon, and the finals is just a Stalwart Blade. Despite its coloring, this Heartless is immune to both Ice and Fire magic, so I relied mostly on regular combos and what was left of my Limit Break to beat it down and secure 423 hearts for the organization's greatest purpose. Mission 74 we chase after Riku in Twilight Town. No Heartless were harmed during this mission, despite the fact that they practically swarm you while you try to catch up to our blindfolded emo phase-having friend. Not totally unlike our last mission, we are sent to hunt down Xion in Twilight Town. In the Sandlot, we get a mandatory encounter against 20 Mega Shadows, which are easily one-shotted by some fire magic, and when we reach the Tram Common, we spot Xion from afar, and of course during the chase we are hounded by Heartless at every turn, and of course 4 storm bombs self-destructed during the chase. We of course count them towards our total number of hearts, but out of respect, they will not be added to the grand total of Heartless in the end. Mission 76 is just a Shadow Glop mission in Neverland. For those curious, you can find most of them on Hook's ship, and the rest are here on the back of these rocks. No Heartless were fought or harmed, so we move on. Day 300 is following once again in the same area in Neverland that we were just at, but we managed to get away with only killing the target enemy, that being the Phantom Tail. I remember as a kid I found this particular encounter to be exhausting, and to some it might be until you realize that the weakness is in its name. Just aim a few fires at its tail and it'll go down faster than the ducks in Duck Hunt. My name is Roxas, and you're watching the Channel of Pain. On today's program, we have Hell Incarnate, the ruler of the skies. It's part of the reason why so many people hate this game or even know that it exists. Even veterans like myself struggle to finish this boss in anything less than 7 minutes, but thankfully I have a foolproof strategy, and that has not failed me once during the entire run of this game so far. Yes. Halloween Town is back in full swing in the spirit of Halloween, with its Heartless population fully revitalized these days, and I love that the game shows us this with cutscenes throughout the mission. Starting in the town square, we fight 2 hover ghosts and 6 icy cubes. In the boneyard, Xigbar joins our party after sniping down several shadows that were invading our personal space, and from there we move to the Moonlight Hill area to execute an additional 4 icy cubes and 5 hover ghosts. Finally, beyond the wall we run into 2 final icy cubes in a snowy crystal, which for some reason Roxas thinks is the giant Heartless they were on the mission to destroy this whole time. Like, come on man, you fought these things like on the regular at Beast's Castle. Anyway, after that weak fake out, we fight the real target, the Chill Ripper, which low-key might be one of my favorite Heartless designs that Pokemon shamelessly copied in their latest game. Mission number 80 is pretty unique since it's another organization mission, but it takes place in Beast's Castle. The pods that we are sent here to break have a super strong living pod Heartless in some of them, but thankfully if you come equipped with the right Keyblade, the fewer the hits the better, you can get in and out without fighting a single one, all the while questioning, how the hell did the organization set up all of those pods without the Beast knowing? Or do you think he maybe knew and allowed it? One of life's great mysteries. I can't take these Emerald Serenade missions anymore, so it's a good thing this is the last one. It just so happens to be the hardest though, because try as I might, it is practically impossible to take it out without being bombarded by this trio of Great Caprice. So I beat them up in order to send a message to their watermelon looking buddy, I beat him up too, and then I got the fuck out. Mission number 82 takes place on day 321, which is easily one of my favorite days in the game's story, although the mission itself is kind of shit. We're sent to Agrabah to hunt down a spiked crawler, and you know, those puzzles aside, I thought this mission would be pretty straightforward, but Xion, after all this time, is still just as bloodthirsty. I don't have the exact moment on camera, but after getting about halfway through, I noticed that we had picked up 12 hearts somewhere. Xion just needs to stop, bro. Get some help. Except don't stop, because despite the 2 Heartless that were killed on this mission, both of them were done in by Xion, and therefore will not be added to the total. If you can find a loophole, use it. Zoldan's gone MIA, and it's up to us to go look for him around the location of his last mission at Beast's Castle, and there are Heartless littered everywhere we go. From the ballroom, to the courtyard, from the east wing to the west. There's even a Blitz Spear in the Undercroft that surprisingly was entirely optional. Even more surprisingly, you can almost avoid every single Heartless that spawns in this mission if it weren't for the 2 bully dogs guarding Beast's room, making sure it's impossible to do the check to move on. Zoldan was actually here just toying with the Beast the entire time and setting up for Kingdom Hearts 2, and forgot to report back, so all's well that ends well, I guess. Xigbar accompanies us to Olympus again to hunt down yet another spinning spheroid Heartless, the Scorching Sphere. This guy is again pretty easy so long as you remember to pack some blizzard spells in order to stop him in his tracks and get some hits in. I also find it really fascinating that this is one of the last missions we actually get to play with Xigbar in our party, and it's basically just a one-to-one copy of a previous mission. We're back in Wonderland on day 324 to collect some hearts, and in order to make sure I don't pick up any more than necessary this time, I started by decimating the Great Caprice and Sapphire Elegy that spawned between the entrance to and from the rest of the world first, so that I could drink the magic juice with no one in my way when I leave. I then systematically executed 5 Great Caprice, 5 Striped Aria, and 8 Sapphire Elegies in the Queen's Courtroom and Lotus Forest respectively, before quickly making my way back to the Dark Corridor, hoping to never look back at this place. Luxord Horde is the only organization member outside of Roxas and Axel who has canonically flown in Neverland. Let that sink in. And not to brag, but I got a perfect score on this emblem mission without even breaking a sweat, on my first and only try. Beat that. I don't know why people don't talk about this, but Mission 87 is actually surprisingly difficult in comparison to the more common difficulty complaints of Ruler of the Skies and Leechgrave. In this mission, we have to fight 3 windstorms all by ourselves, and their only weakness is thunder magic. Me being me, I forgot to pack enough for this battle, but I think even with it, I wouldn't have changed much since in addition to constantly swatting in the air at these things, we have to dodge an endless supply of detonators. I counted 6 that went off during the course of the full battle, which in case you forgot, does not go towards our total number of Heartless, but does get added to the heart counter of 336 total for this mission. Mission 88 sees us right back to Halloween Town to face off against an Orcus, which is usually a pureblood Heartless, but because this was actually Xion in disguise, nothing gets added to our total. Finally, on Mission 89, we have our most challenging mission yet, because while all that Xion identity crisis stuff is going on, the organization is trying to permanently unalive Roxas by sending us into a boss gauntlet of sorts while in Twilight Town. Starting off the gauntlet in the underground passage, we take out the poison plant from Mission 12. A few blasts of fire and it's gone. Deeper in the tunnels, I accidentally murdered the trick monkey without even thinking, but thankfully it's easy to subtract the 22 heart points it gave us and move on to the Gigas Shadow, which again went down quickly due to it being extremely flammable. At the Station Plaza, we fight against the Stalwart Blade from Mission 73, the Orcus from Mission 88 is in the Tram Common, the Veil Lizard from Mission 23 in front of the Old Mansion, and finally the Powered Armor, an evolution of the Guard Armor from Mission 61. The thing I enjoy most about this mission is that all of these enemies, with the exception of the Gigas Shadow, all first appeared in missions that were super impactful, making it a nice way to call back to all the fun we've had so far. And better yet, a great way to finally end off this video. Not. Mission number 90 just had to go ahead and exist, making us go all the way back to everyone's least favorite world and fight against 7 Scarlet Tangos, an Aerial Master, and the Land Armor, all just to place the organization's stupid device. Mission number 91 is technically the last mission of the game, story-wise, but since there's no Heartless, we kick Sykes to the curb in a truly underrated fight, by the way, and leave this godforsaken place for the very last time. Mission number 92 on day 357 is a sad one, to be certain. I won't go over it since it has no significance to the video that we're doing today, but if you know, you know. The true final mission, number 93. Roxas gets to unleash his full potential here. Now equipped with 2 Keyblades, he becomes a Heartless slaying machine. We make our way to the final boss Riku by gliding past several hordes of Neo Shadows, but only having to fight and defeat 6 of them before our fateful encounter. And this marks the end of the journey. Because, as we all know by now, Roxas actually ends up ceasing to exist by the end of this game, therefore making it the only time he actually kills any Heartless. His only other appearances in the series, including Recoded and Dream Drop, are illusions and data, and when he is truly revived in Kingdom Hearts 3, his only battles are against the organization and the copies of Full Power Xehanort. So now, after finally reaching the end, or skipping to it, you're probably wondering, what was the final total? Can I get a drum roll, please? 12,483 hearts, and 613 Heartless. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting the number to be as large as it was, even when we were trying our best to hold back on how many we were defeating, but them's the rules, I suppose. I also find it so fascinating that Roxas canonically has killed a little over 1/5 as many as Sora did in 3 games in just 1. Honestly, this video was an extremely tedious yet fun experiment, and yes, I could do it again differently someday, maybe to count how many a total genocidal Roxas could kill, but for now, if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you liked it, and maybe hit subscribe and shared it with a friend. Thanks to Regular Pat for the very real invitation to copy his homework, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.